My name is Stephanie, and I'm a dentist, and I'm at home this week because of the coronavirus. My office is closed. We're handling emergencies only, so it gave me a lot of time to be home. And I've been making masks for the area nursing homes and hospitals and things like that, and taking them because there's a mask shortage. So I've had a lot of people to message me to say, I wish I could sew, I wish I could help, but I never learned. And so it gave me the idea. I said, I can teach people to do some basic sewing and it'll give them something to do while they're at home, and then they can maybe help with the mask shortage if that's something that they would like to do. But the masks are a little bit more complicated to make, so I decided that I would start off by teaching everybody how to make something really, really simple. Once you get started and once you learn what to do, it's a project that will take less than 30 minutes, and you can give it as a baby gift. And it feels really good to make something and give from the heart that's homemade. So I'm going to teach you how to do a burp cloth. This is one that I made, and it's just really simple. So you can throw it over the shoulder like this when you have the baby. Another thing that we're going to learn how to make is the handkerchief bib, which looks like this. And then it's got the cute little snap that snaps so that you can put it around the baby for the bib. So we're going to make these as a set. We're going to make a burp cloth and a bib that match. You could also put these around your puppy if you wanted to, a little puppy handkerchief. This one is in a puppy print. I made this for a little boy. But anyway, you could also, if you don't have a baby you want to put it on, you could also make it and put it around your puppy. I'm going to tell you about the type of materials that you will need. You will need a sewing machine. Most people have a sewing machine or have access to a sewing machine, but you may not know how to use it. You may have been intimidated by it. And so I'm going to show you what to do so that you can break out that sewing machine and make a cute little gift for someone and have a little creativity. So what I like to use, these are called fat quarters. You can get these at Walmart. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them at any fabric store, and I like to use them because they're small and they're easy to work with. They cost about $1 each depending on where you get them, but they have all these beautiful colors, and so they're called a fat quarter, and I'm going to show you what one looks like. You can also get them in what's called a stack, and this is a pre-coordinated fat quarter bundle that has all these pretty little fabrics that self-coordinate, and so you can make all kinds of little projects with these. And these are about $8 to $10 for a bundle of these if you want them pre-coordinated. It's just really easy if you've never done any sewing before and you're intimidated when you go into a fabric store and you see all those bolts of fabric. Just go to the fat quarter section, and for $10 you can make so many different types of projects. You can get on Pinterest or YouTube, put in fat quarter projects, and come up with all kinds of things, and they're really easy. What a fat quarter is, it's a piece of material it's a yard of fabric that has been cut into 4 pieces. They are 18 by 21 inches long, pre-cut. So it's not an intimidating piece of fabric, it's just a little piece like this that's pre-cut, and it's really easy to learn on. So that's what I started out learning on, and that's what I still love to use because they're just so easy. So the first thing that you need to do when you open your fat quarter is you need to iron it, because it'll have all these little creases in it. So iron it first, okay? Let me jump back to a materials list that you're gonna need. You can do all kinds of projects with just a good pair of scissors, but I do recommend getting a pair of dedicated to fabric cutting scissors. This brand is by Fiskars, and you can get all these at Walmart or Amazon or anywhere like that. This is not a special pair of scissors, but it is a heavy duty fabric cutting scissors. Once you get a pair of fabric scissors, hide them. Put them up so that your kids can't get them or anything like that, because once you cut things other than fabric, they lose their sharpness. And one thing that makes sewing a lot easier is when you have a nice clean line. So it's good to invest. These are probably 20 bucks. So it's good to invest in a dedicated pair of fabric scissors. Now, you don't have to have this next item, but if you're interested in getting into sewing, it is worth the investment because it will change your life. And that is a cutting mat. It is a sorry, there's my dog. Okay, this is a rotary cutting mat, and you can get this anywhere where they sell sewing stuff, Amazon, Walmart, whatever. This is the size that I like to use, and it is in The size is 18 by 24. This size mat works really, really, really great with fat quarters because your whole fat quarter will fit on top of the cutting mat, and it'll easily fit on top of your kitchen table or wherever you're working. They make really, really big cutting mats when you get into big projects, but if you're a beginner and you're beginning with fat quarters, I recommend the 18 by 24 inch size. I also recommend a rotary cutter. This looks like a pizza cutter. It's got a blade on it. You can buy more blades. The blade will last a really long time, but then when it begins to get dull, you can change your blade out and put on a new blade. And then you're going to need a clear acrylic ruler. The measurement on this one is a 6 by 24, and this works really well with your cutting mat because it will go all the way from end to end when you're doing your cutting. Now, like I said, you don't have to have the clear acrylic ruler, the cutting mat, or the rotary cutter, but if you're really interested in sewing, just go ahead and start out and get it because it will really make your projects a lot easier to do because your lines will be straight, your cuts will be clean, and it just makes sewing a whole lot easier. You know, my grandmother, they didn't have all those. My grandmother just used to use a pair of scissors, but why not use these things to just make your projects that much easier? Another thing that we're going to use when we get to the bib, making the bib, is called cam snaps. I ran across these on Amazon, ordered them. I love them. They're so easy to use. And this little kit was about $25. I'll put the link below. But what it is it's a tiny little button, and it's got the male and female parts on the back, and so you just snap it in and it pops, and then it locks in, and there's no sewing required. So you just pop it open like that. So that is the cam lock. Okay, so to get started on your cutting, it's always best to try to plan your cuts so that you get the most use out of your fabric. So if you just plop your pattern down and you cut in the middle, you have a lot of waste on the sides. So plan out what you're going to do so that you can get the most use out of your fabric. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make a burp cloth, and then we're going to make a bib, okay? And we're going to do it out of the same piece of fabric. So you can get both of those items out of one piece of fabric. The other thing that I forgot to mention, if you're going to do any of these baby projects, is you need your fat quarters, but then you're also going to need either fleece or flannel to go with it. As you can see, I usually do a lot of sewing, so I just bought the whole bolt. It's not expensive, but the flannel is a little thinner. It's a little easier to work with than the fleece. But I just had this on hand from another project. So the fleece feels good. It's a little fluffier when you use it, but it is a little harder to work with. So when you go, you're gonna need the two things. You're gonna need your fat quarters, and then you're gonna need to have them cut you. I don't think they have any of this pre-cut, but I would go ahead and get a yard. I looked at the price. I bought the whole bolt, but if you just buy a yard, it's $3.47 for a yard of fabric. And you can do a whole lot of projects with 1 yard. So your fat quarters, and then either the fleece or the flannel. I would recommend the flannel because it's a little thinner and it's a little easier to sew when you first get started. So what we're gonna do with our fat quarter is, we're going to, and you can also double cut if you wanted to take your fleece and you wanted to put your two pieces together and cut like that, you can do that. But if you're new to all this, I would recommend just cutting one thing at a time, because if you mess something up, then you've only messed up one layer. Okay, we're back, and I've positioned everything so hopefully you can see the cuts. We're about to make our cuts for the burp cloth and for the bib. So I've got my fat quarter laid out, and it has been ironed, so I've got it on my cutting mat. So what's really easy to do is for you to use this end of the fabric for your burp cloth and just go ahead and cut it and get it out of the way. So to use your acrylic cutting mat, your ruler and your mat, what you're gonna do is this burp cloth is going to be the 18 inches long, which is the length of the fat quarter, and then it's going to be 8 inches wide. You could do it wider if you want. I just found that I like that size for me, and then it also leaves enough fabric left here in the middle where you can do another project. So what we're gonna do is, I want you to look at this and see how all these little corners are. This is pre-cut, so we're just going to line this up really straight in these corners. And we're gonna make sure all of our lines match. So do you see how I've got, just kind of bump it a little bit, and I've got this line goes all the way down, and then it matches, not the edge of the cutting board, but the black line on the mat. So I've got that. So you've already got 2 cuts made because you've got a cut here, and then you've got a cut here because it's pre-cut. Now, if it's cut crooked, then you need to recut it. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your clear acrylic ruler, and remember I said I wanted an 8 by 18. Well, you've already got the 18 length. So now all you've got to do is you've got to make it 8 inches wide. So I peek under here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to place my acrylic ruler. I'm going to peek under there, and I'm going to find the 8, which is right there. And I'm going to line that up, and I'm going to come all the way down to the end. And sometimes if I can't see, I'll fold the fabric under like that just so that I can see the line. But you want to make sure this end of the acrylic ruler is lined up exactly on the 8, and then you'll peek under here, and you want to make sure it's lined up exactly on the 8 right there. So it is. So I'm going to hold it down firmly with my left hand because I'm right-handed. So I'm going to hold it down, and then I'm going to take the rotary cutter, hold it firmly, make sure all of my edges are lined up correctly, all my lines are straight, double check. Okay, that's right. Hold it firmly down, and then I'm gonna press the rotary cutter against the acrylic ruler here, and I'm gonna push all the way down and cut. Sometimes there's a little thread, and look at that. Perfect cut. So now I've got my perfect cut for my burp cloth. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna take my fleece or flannel, put it under here, and then you can either cut with scissors and use this as your pattern so that you have this, or you can line it up again with your rotary cutter and then cut again so that you have a sandwich. You have this, and then you have, here's one that I've already cut with the, for the bib, that you have your piece of fabric and then you have your piece of fleece or flannel. And they're cut exactly the same, and then I've got them pinned. So now we've got our piece for our burp cloth, and now we're gonna take what's left right here, and we're gonna cut our piece for our bib. So the bib is going to be a 12 by 18 with a 2.5 inch drop on the side. So I drew a little diagram. So it's 18 inches across the top, and it's 12 inches from the top to the point, and then on the sides over here, it's got a 2.5 inch drop. So remember that this piece of your fat quarter is already pre-cut to 18 inches. So you've already got one cut made. So what I like to do is fold it in half. So that makes 9 inches this way, and then double 9 inches on the other side for your 18. So really easy. What you're gonna do is, I have a little, I didn't put this on the materials list, but this is a little dissolving marker. You can get these at the fabric store too. You can't just use a pen, but I like to use the dissolving marker just so that it will disappear. But what I'm gonna do is, I already know that this is 9, and I want my drop to be 12 inches. So I'm gonna line up my edges again on my cutting mat, because remember, everything we're doing is square straight lines. So I'm gonna line up my lines perfectly. I want this line lined up here, and this line lined up here. And you can just pick any area. Then I'm gonna use my cutting mat, and I'm gonna measure down from the top, because I want my drop to be 12 inches. So I'm gonna make a dot at 12 inches right there. I also want a drop 2.5 inches down. So I'm gonna go to the outside or the open edge, not the folded edge, but the outside open edge right here. And I'm gonna mark down 2.5 inches. Right there's my little mark. So then what I do is, I guess this is geometry, but I take that little green mark that I made at the 2.5 inch drop, and then I take the mark that I made at the 12-inch mark, and I take my clear acrylic ruler and I match them up from there to there. Then what I do is I hold firmly with my left hand in the middle, because you don't want this to shift. I hold this firmly in the middle. Then I take my rotary cutter and I push along the acrylic ruler, I can't talk. And then I have my piece for my bib. 18 inches across the top with a 12-inch point from here to here, and then a 2.5-inch drop on either side. So now I've got my two pieces that match. I've got my piece for my burp cloth and my piece for my bib. Okay, we're back. So this is the piece of flannel that I'm going to use for my backing material. It's really soft and it just feels so good. And I'm going to double cut because I've done this a lot, and I know I'm going to make several more of these, so it doubles the amount of material that you cut, so you're a little bit more efficient. So what I usually like to do is I'll take, and this has been cut off of a bolt, but I take my fabric, lay it out like that, and then I take my pieces, I lay it on the top like this, and then you can go back and you can just take your clear acrylic ruler, line it up like this on the top. I'm gonna do this edge because I'm right-handed and I won't have to flip my fabric, but you can just line it up like this. Lay your clear acrylic ruler on the top. Oh, I didn't mention this. It's best to cut it with your right sides together, because then everything will match up perfectly, because that's how you're gonna sew it, is right sides together, and then you're gonna flip it. So it's best to just go ahead and cut it like that, and it'll save you some grief and time in the end, okay? So I just lay out my pieces like this. Then I'm gonna lay my ruler on top, like so, line everything up, cut, okay, and then go around and cut everything. Okay, I'm not gonna bore you with that because you can cut it yourself. Okay, so I went ahead and cut everything, and I double cut, so now I have an extra piece of fabric for another project. So I'll just put that to the side. So what you want to do is you want to take your two pieces of fabric now, your flannel and your pretty fabric piece, and doesn't that look pretty together, the little gray and gray? And you're going to put the right sides together. Don't make a mistake and put the pretty side up, because that is an error. So you want to put the right sides together. And also something that's nice, this is a little bit thin, which I don't mind that, but if you wanted it a little bit thicker, you could even put another layer in the middle of something like this, and it would give it a little bit more fluffiness. But that's just something extra if you want to do. So I think I'll do that though, because I think I like. Okay, I'm back. I just decided to add an extra layer to this because I felt like it just made it a little bit fluffier, and I had this fleece anyway, so I just decided to add it. So actually mine's going to be 3 layers. You don't have to do that, but I just thought it would make it a little bit fluffier. So you still want to put your right sides together. See, I almost made a mistake just then. You have to put your right sides of the fabric together. If you sew, so you want to see the ugly side, okay? If you make the mistake of sewing it up wrong, then you'll have to rip it out or either throw it away and start again. But you want to make sure you have your pretty sides together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those together like that. And then I'm going to take some pins. This stuff has a tendency to kind of move and shift around on you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just pin it to stabilize it so that it won't move and shift when I'm sewing and get me all frustrated. So I'm going to pin it together like that. And now we're ready to take it to the sewing machine. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put it on the sewing machine. We're going to actually start our sewing. I have a Singer Confidence quilter that I ordered from Amazon several years ago. You can just have a basic sewing machine. Doesn't have to be anything special. Any basic sewing machine will do this easy, simple work. So you're going to put it on your sewing machine. Tori, come a little bit closer so you can see this right here. You're going to do a 1/4 inch seam, which means that if you line the fabric up with the edge of your foot, you'll be perfect. and you're just gonna do a straight line. I like to set my sewing machine, I like to hit this button, which means when I stop sewing, the needle stays engaged in the fabric. That means that if I bump it or if I go off to do something else, when I come back, I've still got my starting position. So I like that function. Whenever you start sewing, all machines have a back stitch button. So the first few stitches you sew, you're gonna hit the back stitch and it's gonna back stitch a couple stitches, and what that does is that reinforces the sewing so that when you turn it inside out, it won't come apart. So always remember to do that. So I'm gonna start sewing, I'm gonna have everything lined up, I'm gonna sew a couple stitches, and then I'm gonna hit the back stitch button. And that sews and then back stitches to reinforce. Then all you have to do is you just keep everything lined up with the foot on the edge of your fabric till you get all the way down to the corner. Then I'm gonna stop. And I'm gonna stop about a 1/4 inch shy of the fabric. See how my needle stayed engaged right there? See, when I stopped, my needle stayed in the fabric. So now all I have to do, stay close to me, I wanna show this. When I lift the foot, now all I have to do is rotate my fabric and the needle keeps it engaged in place. So I'm gonna lock it back down and then I'm gonna sew to this corner. I'm just gonna do it really fast so I won't bore you. I've also got my layers of fabric pinned together so that they won't shift or move. And I'm gonna stop a 1/4 inch shy of this side, lift the foot, like that, and then I'm gonna simply rotate my fabric and I'm gonna sew all the way down here and to here. Now, if you'll notice right here, I've marked with my green erasable pen 2 marks. I'm going to leave this area open and not sew that up, because when you get all of it sewn, minus this 2 or 3 inches right here, you're gonna fold it inside out so your pretty sides are exposed, and then I'm gonna show you what to do. So Tori, if you'll pause, I'm just gonna sew all the way around. So I've sewn it all the way around, and then I'm gonna stop when I get back to my green mark, and then I'm gonna hit the back stitch button and sew a couple stitches just to reinforce it. Then I'm gonna pull it out right here, and also machines have a little cutter on the side right here, like that, so that you can cut your fabric, you don't have to pick up your scissors. So now that I've sewn it all the way around, so minor technical difficulties. Tori just tripped walking backwards over a box. So, okay, so we've got our fabric right here. This is a trick to make it easier for you when you turn this inside out. You're gonna clip your corners. So if you'll come in, you wanna make note of where your corner stitch is. And you're just gonna take your scissors and you're gonna slip that corner off like that on all 4 corners. You can snip that off so that when you turn it inside out, it'll make a prettier point. If you don't do that, where you've got that extra fabric in the corners, you're not gonna have a pretty crisp point. So now I'm gonna find my opening, and I'm gonna find my right edges, and I'm gonna turn this inside out like this. You're gonna stick your hand in, you're gonna push it all the way out, and you wanna make sure you push to the corners. Push it all the way out, like this. And then one trick that I like to do, I like my corners nice and crisp. So I usually take something like a pencil or something like that and go to the corners and then just kind of engage that corner and push it out like that until it makes a nice little pretty pointed corner. So you do all 4 corners. Okay, you can pause it for me. Okay, so now I've got it turned inside out, and here's our little pocket where we flipped it. So I'm just gonna tuck that in nice and neat and make sure everything's lined up, and then you're gonna iron it down flat. You want everything to be nice and crisp, because that'll make it easier when you sew your last round around the top. I'm just gonna sew it, iron it down like that. Okay. So now we're gonna make our final stitch around the top, which is gonna reinforce everything down together, and it's gonna close our opening. One thing that I like that I forgot to mention is I just use white thread for my bobbin, and I ordered these off Amazon too from Thread Nanny, and it's just pre-wound white bobbins so that when you run out of a bobbin, you don't have to thread all that. you can just pop a white bobbin in. If you're particular about your bottom color thread, you may not want to do that, but I'm not picky about that. I just think white on the bottom is fine, so that's what I do. So we're going to start back off in the corner. We're going to keep our 1/4 inch that we used before. You might want to go in a little bit more narrow, but you're just going to line it up like that. You're going to start sewing, back stitch, and you're going to come in, and sometimes I have to adjust my foot because this material is a little bit thicker, but you're just going to go all the way back around. See how it's kind of beginning to bunch right there? You just kind of have to manage your fabric. When I get all the way to the corner, again, I'm going to stop, lift my foot, just rotate my fabric, and go all the way down to the end. And then when you've sewn up all 4 sides, you're done, and we'll move on to the bib. Okay, so we've got the burp cloth complete. I flipped it, turned it inside out, ironed it, and then I went back and come a little closer to me, and sewed all the way around, and that just reinforces everything and ties everything together. So now we've got our little burp cloth. And now for our handkerchief bib, I've got the right sides together. Now remember on this one, I put that extra layer of fluffy fabric in between just to make it a little bit fluffier. But for the bib, I'm not gonna do that because I think it makes it too bulky and too hot. So what I'm gonna do is I mark the top with my little green pin so that I won't sew that area up. And I'm gonna go all the way around and sew it all the way around, clip my corners, flip it inside out, iron it, and then sew the top stitch all the way around. And then we'll be done, and I'll show you how to put in the cam snap. Okay, so we've got the burp cloth completed. We've got the handkerchief bib completed, so we've got our little set, and now I'm gonna show y'all how to do the cam set, which is really the thing that makes these look awesome, and it makes them look like you just know how to do something great. So order your little camsnaps.com, and they're super easy to use. Looks like I've already lost one. Okay, I've already laid out my pieces, and this is the way my kit is. You can get them in all these little colors, then you can buy the refills for them. But it comes with 2 tools. It comes with a little punch, and then it comes with a little thing that was kind of like a little staple gun. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your punch, and I usually get in the top corner here, and I back off a little bit so that the button will fit in there about the right spot, and I just eyeball it, and then you just punch through. So then you take the little piece that looks like a tack, and you stick it through on the front till it pops through on the back, and then you take one of the little pieces. One is a male piece, one's a female piece, so you take it and you just put it on the back like that. Then you insert it like this into your little gun. You get it all lined up, and you just squeeze it down, and it locks it in place. Now, the trick is this, and I've messed up on this before, so don't make this mistake. You're gonna come to this corner, you're gonna make your punch, and you do this side the opposite of this side. So on this side, we can see the top of the tack. So on this side, we're gonna do that from the bottom. So on this side, we're gonna see the male side. So we're gonna see the tack on this side, the slicky top part, and on this side, we're gonna do it the opposite. And then we're gonna punch this through like that. And then when you do them around like this, they'll snap. So then you have your little handkerchief bib and your burp cloth, and you're done.